Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We've got a look at the latest beef export numbers and some of the factors that are driving demand overseas. Plus, details on a great new tool you can use in the fight against bovine respiratory disease.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kate Maher. Thanks for spending some time with us. We begin with a look at exports and the remarkable pace U.S. beef is on through the year's halfway point. According to data released by USDA and compiled by the U.S. Meat Export Federation in June, exports topped $1 billion for the fifth time this year. June beef exports totaled more than 130,000 metric tons. That's down slightly from the record volume posted in May, but up 16% year over year. Export value was $1.05 billion in June, also down slightly from the May record, but still 31% higher than last year. Looking at the first half of 2022, beef exports are up 6% overall from a year ago, which is exciting news considering the supply chain challenges that are still impacting the global marketplace.
In the global marketplace in 2021, we obviously set records, up 15% in volume and $10.6 billion in value. And we're seeing a lot of headwinds this year, even more than what we saw last year. We got a strong U.S. dollar. We've got inflationary impacts just like we do here domestically. And the other key thing that we're seeing is these challenges in the supply chain. Whether it be shipping, whether it be West Coast ports. And it's not just a U.S. problem, this is a global supply chain problem or opportunity. But despite all of that, business is still breaking records. We're up again this year. We're forecasting between $11.5 to $12 billion in exports for 2022. So it kind of makes me think that if we didn't have these challenges, especially the supply chain challenges, just how good could it be? But that being said, we'll work through it. We always do. There's a lot of focus on getting the supply chain cleaned up, and hopefully we'll have more tailwinds at the end of the year versus headwinds currently.
We're really capitalizing on strong demand throughout Asia, whether it's Korea, Japan, or China. There are consumers there that want more U.S. beef. But for a long time, we didn't have access there. While the demand was there, the access wasn't. So we weren't able to sell our beef into those markets, or we just didn't have a competitive foothold there. With Korea, we had a 40% tariff on our beef. With Japan, we had a 38.5% tariff. And with China, we had no access at all. And even though consumers wanted our products, it took trade policy to help open that up. So at NCBA, that's really where we focus. We look at opportunities and try to partner with the information we have from the U.S. Meat Export Federation and from other industry experts to look at opportunities to sell our beef into these markets. Then we identify the barriers of entry into those markets, whether it's from tariffs or non-tariff barriers like BSE restrictions or hormone restrictions or other restrictions like that aren't based in science. And then we work with our government to remove those barriers. We've done that through trade agreements, through executive agreements, and a lot of different trade policies. But really, we're just trying to identify where those barriers are and then work with proper authorities to remove them. But we also work very closely after the fact to build consumer trust and really telling the story of U.S. cattle producers in those markets, because those consumers, they want to eat the same high quality beef that we serve our families.
Joining us now is Barb Cooksley, a beef producer from Nebraska, who also serves as a regional vice president for NCBA. Barb, thanks for having us out here today to your gorgeous ranch. As exports, what do they mean to you as a beef producer, especially one from Nebraska that works a lot to send a lot of beef overseas?
In Nebraska, we are so far from an export market to handle that ourselves. I'm a cow-calf producer. That's my business, that's my expertise. I can get a cow bred, I can get a live calf on the ground, I can get that to a feedlot. It's up to those who have connections overseas to make those deals. I understand that more people live outside of the U.S. and that's where our market is outside. We cannot eat all the beef we produce. Yes, we do some imports, but that is to add to the grind for our burgers that we sell. But a lot of our beef has to go outside, and we have consumers who are willing to pay a premium for U.S. beef, and I always like to say for Nebraska beef in particular.
Within your region here, the members that you talk to, there's a lot of them. The drought is critical, not only in your region, but other parts of the country. What are you hearing from your fellow producers about drought, how they're managing through it, what they're thinking, how they're holding up?
We do have policy calls, and before the start of the business meeting, a lot of times we'll be sitting there visiting, and it's been over a month ago, and people were talking about the price of hay when you get further west, and I'm talking, Arizona, Nevada. Hay prices were unbelievable, $400, and I don't know if that was delivered. People were already starting to wean calves months early. Just right here in Nebraska, in the southwest corner, not only were they weaning calves early, they were starting to take cows to sale, and that's always heartbreaking because you've worked for generations, not just the cattle genetics, but generations in your family to build a herd that you're proud of and that's efficient. And so we try and share and carry each other's burden, and we're happy for those who have the timely rains, and we pray for those and try and help out financially if we can, those who need our help.
You talk about people having to sell off, generations of cow herds, and that's tough. But I heard a really great quote recently where you have to be sentimental about the land first. And that just really struck me, especially in what a lot of producers are facing today. How do conservation and sustainability efforts really play a factor in not only, making that connection and being sentimental about the land for cattle, for wildlife, for all the ecosystems involved, even in drought conditions?
What drives ranchers, we do have to look at our bottom line. We know we have to make money because we have fixed costs. We have to pay our taxes. We have bills that need to be paid. So there's that economic part of the system. But the environmental system, I think we are probably more sentimental about our ground because it was here long before we were. It gave us this opportunity to put a grazing animal, and that is the way we harvest this grass. We try not to come out here with machines. We don't seed, we don't plant. And socially, when you're talking about sustainability, by taking care of the ground in its best possible way, you maximize, you optimize the use. We see wildlife benefiting. You can watch the balance of healthy grass and healthy cattle, healthy wildlife. We have good water quality. Where we're at right now, we're over the Ogallala Aquifer. The grass and the sand is the best cover we can put on top of that to sustain that. And we know how important water is when you're going into a drought. And so we optimize what our grass can do out here by letting it grow naturally and grazing it at the proper time and resting it.
So Barb, then final question, what is the value of an organization like NCBA to you and your fellow producers, and why is it important to be a member?
Since I'm out here in Nebraska, there's so much that I cannot follow. And there are issues across the nation with my fellow producers from West Virginia to California. An organization like NCBA can address issues important to all of us, and they can also address issues maybe more regionalized. So it's worth my time and my dues dollars to make that happen. I expect NCBA staff to stay on top of issues that I just don't have the time to do.
Well, Barb, we certainly appreciate your investment of time in the organization and the industry and all you do for us. Thank you so much, especially for having us out here today.
Thank you, Kate.
To keep informed on the issues facing cattlemen and women and to help make a difference in the industry, join Barb as a member of NCBA. It's easy to do. Just call 866-233-3872 or visit ncba.org. Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, you'll learn about an innovative technology that can make a real difference in the fight against BRD. That story when we come back.
Grass is the center of our universe. We've got to have a grass program that we can count on and plan on. That's what we need to sustain us, to keep us growing, to keep us prospering.
When you spot BRD in your cattle, that's your golden opportunity to target infection and its associated fever with a single dose of Resflor Gold, the industry standard dual therapy. To learn more, talk to your Merck Animal Health rep or your vet and see label at resflorgold.com. Animals intended for human consumption must not be slaughtered within 38 days of treatment. This product is not approved for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hi, Jolie Fitzsimons here to talk to you today about the Beef Quality Assurance Program and our online BQA modules. The BQA program is an important part of the beef industry. It helps to build consumer confidence and ensures that we're taking care of our animals the right way. The online modules are a great way for producers to stay up to date on their knowledge and certifications. We have 3 courses: cow-calf, Stock Your Backgrounder, and Feed Yard. All 3 of these courses are also available in Spanish. They're free online and take about 2 to 3 hours to complete. If you don't have that time, the great thing about the modules is that you can come back to them later as it saves your progress. Our states also host in-person trainings. You can find more about these in-person trainings and our online modules at bqa.org.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Bovine respiratory disease costs the cattle industry hundreds of millions of dollars each year, which is why producers are always looking for ways to stay ahead of this costly disease. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brad Bullish shows us an innovative technology from Merck Animal Health that can make a real difference against BRD.
Peter Armstrong has plenty to do to keep him busy. In addition to owning a veterinary clinic in Jacksboro, Texas, he also runs his own cattle business.
So we're predominantly backgrounding operation, and so we buy cattle out of 3 local sale barns. We always background them for 60 days, and then depending on time of year, they'll either go to a feedlot or we'll turn them out on either grass or wheat grazing for 60 to 90 days, depending on the cattle.
Dr. Armstrong has seen firsthand how the hard work of a cattle producer can be quickly undone by an outbreak of bovine respiratory disease. This is especially true for a backgrounder, where the commingling of cattle from different sale barns can often increase the risk for BRD.
One of the bigger problems that we see with bovine respiratory disease, or BRD, is varying levels of vaccination. You really don't know what these cattle have had, whether they've had a modified live, a killed product, whether that killed product was boosted, or whether they've had nothing at all.
BRD remains a deadly problem for the industry, but Merck Animal Health has introduced an illuminating electronic ear tag that can help producers spot sick animals quicker. It's called Sense Hub Feedlot, and the thumb-sized tag mounts on the inside of an animal's ear flap and monitors both body temperature and movement.
Sense Hub Feedlot is this specialized tag that shoots an infrared light into the ear canal that detects temperature. It also detects movement at the individual level, but it also compares it to the group. And after a short period of time, 48 hours to get a baseline, it's monitoring that animal in relation to itself and the group 24/7. So it's like having someone watch these animals 24/7. It sends the signal to an algorithm, then through machine learning, this algorithm will start to recognize which animals are showing signs that there's something wrong with their health status, and they need to be addressed.
By detecting sick cattle earlier, they can be assessed and treated sooner to help improve treatment outcomes.
This technology is allowing us to pick up on animals that we otherwise wouldn't recognize until it's too late. And so that really is starting to give us an edge on getting a good treatment in at the earliest time point of the disease process to give those cattle the best chance they have to fight it.
I really got a good feel that this could be a really good way for me to mitigate some time, some expenses, and try to identify cattle that are sick sooner. And that was really the big thing for me. If I could identify those cattle that were sick, up to 48 hours quicker, then I could move those cattle forward, and we didn't have to catch up from all the weight they lost from being sick.
Dr. Armstrong gets an email every morning that lists the cattle that need to be assessed. The SenseHub feedlot ear tag also has a flashing LED light, which helps identify animals that need to be sorted off for treatment.
There's a green light that blinks in their ear that indicates that those cattle are sick. Those calves that will indicate, especially early on in a group of calves, are not cattle that I would ever pull that look sick. They are typically the first up to the feed bunk. It's kind of weird, the first calf running up's got a blinking light and you pull them and they have 106 temperature. So they still feel really good to eat, but they're just starting the earliest part of that viremia and are getting sick. And so we're able to identify those cattle, let them finish eating, because that's a very common thing, right? See a calf, pull it out of the pen, well now he's missed breakfast that morning. And so if we're able to pull that calf out after that fact, then a lot of times that's got a big benefit for us.
Even with feedlot in the name, SenseHub can have a positive impact on a cow-calf operation that retains calves, or, as Dr. Armstrong has proven, a backgrounding or stocker operation. Dr. Armstrong is also excited to share his story with other cattle producers he works with at the clinic.
If I'm able to go and tell a client, hey, this is what I've done in this operation and this is how it's done for me, then I think I can give that advice a lot stronger. And I definitely see opportunities. We have a lot of people in this part of the country that wean their cow-calf herds. And so we end up, and I think there's some opportunities for these fall calvers, and that's always the time of year that we deal with BRD to a greater extent. If we could go in and then say, hey, we can identify these calves, pull these calves quicker, so that we can get them back and get you guys your weaning weights that you need. I think that would be the biggest recommendation that we'll probably be looking at.
The powerful antibiotic lineup from Merck Animal Health is packed with products that effectively treat bovine respiratory disease. Merck also offers non-steroidal, anti-inflammatory drug options, both incorporated with an antibiotic and as standalone products.
NSAIDs are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, and we will often use those in treatment of bovine respiratory disease to help bring down the fever that we see associated with those diseases that cause that, whether that's a viral process or a bacterial process.
If we can get early on in the process, we can institute ancillary treatments like the use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories to help minimize that inflammation, make the animals feel better, and also reduce the amount of lung damage that's occurring. It can help them get over this disease process and get back to food and water and a normal life earlier and easier than if we were trying to play catch up.
Bovine respiratory disease will always be a top concern for the beef industry, which is why Merck Animal Health continues to develop new approaches to help cattle producers stay ahead of BRD and other challenges.
Merck Animal Health is one of the companies that's constantly looking forward, always looking for new ways to help cattle producers, help the cattle industry move forward and do better. The use of antibiotics is an important thing, and it's something that we don't want to lose on the animal side or the human side. So antibiotic stewardship is very important. And that's why companies like Merck Animal Health are looking for ways that we can use our antibiotics to a better way, more appropriately, less often, and to reduce the amount that's being used and have it more targeted so we still come out with a better outcome with those animals. And so the more we can figure out ways to help the producer recognize these animals and help the animals by getting the right treatment in early, it reduces the amount that we have to use, it improves our antibiotic stewardship, and it's better for everybody involved.
Reporting from Texas, I'm Brad Bullough for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
To learn more about inner ear canal temperature and activity tracking and the difference it can make on your cattle operation, just visit the website sensehubfeedlot.com. Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we've got a look at a feed processor that is providing huge savings for some producers. That story when we come back.
We didn't just design the 6M tractors with you in mind, we designed them with you by our side. The new 6M tractors from John Deere, reimagined by you, for you. For a limited time, get 0% APR financing on qualifying 6 Series tractors and round balers. Experience the new 6M at your local John Deere dealer.
From the very beginning, Ritchie has been dedicated to one thing: helping people deliver fresh, constant water to their animals. Today's Ritchie waterers rely on a valve design that remains much the same as it was in 1921. It's a simple idea. Do it right, and the rest will take care of itself. We never set out to create a company that would be around for 100 years. We just wanted to create something great.
Did you know you can get reimbursed for attending cattle industry educational events? The Rancher Resilience Grant helps cattle producers attend valuable programs such as Cattlemen's College and Stockmanship and Stewardship training sessions. Local, state, and national events qualify for the grant, and successful applicants can receive money back to help cover registration fees and hotel expenses. To apply for the Rancher Resilience Grant, go to ncba.org and click on the Producer tab.
Although we're experiencing summer weather right now, winter will be here before we know it. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Russell Nimitz has a look at a unique product that can make winter feeding easier and more cost-effective.
Years ago, Southeast Colorado rancher R.C. Patterson was faced with the nearly impossible task of purchasing and making payments on both his land and cattle. To generate the income he needed would require running nearly double the amount of cattle that he was comfortable putting on his land. But when he was a kid, R.C. had actually seen his dad use all of his winter pasture in the summer by running twice as many cows. That was great from a cash flow standpoint, but providing the cows with a total cost-efficient ration in the winter required a lot of machinery and a lot of work.
We're feeding numerous different classes of livestock, and everything that we feed has different nutritional requirements. We were just nonstop grinding and mixing, and it took 2 or 3 operations to get the cattle fed every day. And so the question became, what made it feasible? And of course, what would make it feasible is if we could do the whole operation, do one man, one machine, one operation, get it all done at once.
R.C. started looking for a machine to make feeding easier, and when he couldn't find one to suit his needs, he designed and patented his own. The result is the Easy Ration Processor, which allows the operator to blend 2 different feed sources and change up the ratio on the go.
People were already trying to do that. People were already putting 2 different types of hay on there, but they were just stuck with one blend. It kind of occurred to me one day, is like, why don't we just run them at different rates, and then we can create any blend we want? And it seemed so ridiculously simple that I thought, well, it must not work, or surely somebody would have done this years ago. But after months of mulling it over, I finally said, there's no reason this can't work. It's too straightforward and simple. So what we actually developed was basically a little miniature feed mill that went on the back of a truck. And so we were able to load up 2 different types of roughage. It focused on blending roughage just because that was the cheapest thing available to us. And so we're blending, say, alfalfa on one side and corn stalks on the other, for example. And then we actually had a grain attachment where we could blend in some concentrate. And so what we were doing that had never really been done before was the fact that we were actually blending them, creating a ration and dispensing it at the same time that we were feeding the cattle. All with one machine, one loading, boom, we load up and go. And readjust some controls, feed totally different blends, even take ingredients out of the mix. So the Easy Ration Processor is the only thing anywhere that can actually do that. Load it up and just create infinite blends that fit whatever class of livestock you're feeding.
Inside the cab, a touchscreen computer monitors and controls all the functions of the unit, including the feed processing, mixing ratios, and floor change speeds.
We've got alfalfa hay on the left floor. So this control and this scale monitor correlates with the alfalfa. On the right floor, we've got corn stalks that are basically a filler and a lot cheaper. So this turns on the right floor, and then this controls the speed of how much corn stalks we're going to put in the mix. And then we can monitor that, of course, with our right floor monitor here. Right now in this pen that we're going to feed, we've got 87 heifers and 7 bulls in there. We've just turned the bulls in on them. We've given them the Ludolase shots. We've synchronized everything. And so we're going to want to feed 310 pounds of alfalfa. We're going to want to feed 330 pounds of corn stalks. and 400 pounds of the whole corn. Now this is a pretty hot ration, but this is a growing ration for our heifers. And if you look down here, the ration we would feed the cows is radically different. And that's the cool thing about the machine is we readjust the controls and feed infinite different rations. We can even take a feed source out of there. For example, we feed the horses. We got here, we're just feeding them straight alfalfa. We would not turn on the right floor or the grain auger. We would just process up the alfalfa.
RC realized with the Easy Ration processor, he could not only cut his feeding time, but also create nutritionally balanced rations and change them on the go for each class of livestock. And since he doesn't have to save grass for winter grazing, RC could put double the cows on his land during the growing season. This not only utilizes his forage at its highest nutritional value, with proper rotational grazing practices, he can actually improve his grass.
What we created then with this ranch with the Easy Ration hay processor is the ability to feed a total blended ration so we don't have to rely on any grass. We can use it all in the summer. We're able to run double the cattle because we have all that grass available for summer use that we normally would use in the winter. So whenever you're able to run double the cattle for the same per head, I mean, that's economics 101. Get your costs in line and then increase production.
The Easy Ration processor has come a long way from that original prototype, and now there are several different models available to customers.
So our Easy Ration hay processors are built right here in the good old US of A in Harrington, Kansas. We got 4 and 6 bell models that can go on trucks. You can get grain attachments. You could without grain. There's scale options. Same with the tractor pull. We got 4 and 6 bell models that you can get scales on them. The grain attachment, no grain attachment. And then we just come out with the pickup pull model that we're really proud of. With our pickup pull model, no one that we know of has ever done anything like that. Created something that's self-contained. You just got to tie onto the gooseneck ball and go.
The Easy Ration processor has cut feed costs by over 50% for some of RC's customers and has also allowed them to survive droughts and high feed prices without having to sell cows.
I encourage people, if good enough isn't good enough anymore, take a look and maybe we've got some answers for you that you've been looking for a long time.
Reporting from southeastern Colorado, I'm Russell Nimitz for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
If you'd like to learn more about the Easy Ration processor, just call 800-242-9599 or visit the website easyration.com. Still to come, we'll discuss how the Natural Resources Conservation Service helps cattle producers protect their land and water resources. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Nasalgen 3 is a new 3-way intranasal BRD vaccine that offers young calves unrivaled protection against devastating respiratory diseases, including IBR, BRSV, and PI3. And it has a unique blue shadow, so there's no second guessing which animals have been vaccinated. To up your protection, choose new Nasalgen 3 PMH, the first and only 5-way intranasal vaccine on the market. Talk to your veterinarian and visit nasalgen.com to learn more.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hi, Jolie Fitzsimons here to talk to you today about the Beef Quality Assurance Program and our online BQA modules. If you've been certified online before, you can now go back and look up your certificate or get recertified online. Go to bqa.org under the certification tab to get logged in. Don't worry if you forgot your password. You can reset it on the site or reach out to customer support for assistance. If you've never been certified before, we'd love for you to head to bqa.org today and get signed up.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
It can be tough to keep up with all the issues that impact the beef cattle business. That's why NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen is dedicated to bringing you valuable news, information, and education. The goal is to give you the knowledge you need to make the best decisions for your operation. So if you're looking for in-depth coverage of the beef industry and the issues that matter to you, don't miss Cattlemen to Cattlemen, debuting every week on RFD TV and on YouTube.
For years, the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service, or NRCS, has been a key partner to help farmers and ranchers achieve their sustainability goals. We're joined now by Jeff Nichols, who is the rangeland specialist for the Nebraska NRCS. Jeff, thanks for being here with us today. So cattle producers really invest heavily already in conservation practices on their own land. How does NRCS work with these landowners to support those efforts?
Well, we just like to come alongside the farmers and ranchers and give them first technical assistance to help support the questions that they may have or problems they may have out there, solving some resource issues on their land, but then also come alongside them and offer some financial incentives through our programs that we have, and that enables us to assist them in ways that they might not find assistance other places.
You know, I know you all offer such great financial costs and some co-oping costs through programs. Some still view it as a sort of an extra step that they have to take, or something that's maybe cost prohibitive or labor prohibitive on their farm and ranch. Maybe talk about some of the specific programs that you can help technically or financially to help offset some of those burdens to the landowner.
Well, one example of a program that we can help landowners with is to help control eastern red cedar trees or woody encroachment on their grazing lands. And that particular practice is beneficial in that it helps reclaim acres that have been overtaken by cedar trees and bring those acres back into production for grazing.
So when you talk about woody encroachment, there's really some innovative type of ways to manage that really aren't new. But how is NRCS working with groups and groups within the community to sort of re-embrace those techniques, and what are they doing here?
Well, we like to be able to meet with landowners either one-on-one or in small groups to have a conversation with them about the challenges they're facing on their land. And in the area of woody encroachment, there's lots of different options out there for them to consider as alternatives to help address that issue. But the two primary ones that are used in this area would be brush management practice, which is basically going in and cutting or mechanically removing that woody species, in this case, eastern red cedar, or the use of prescribed fire. And so prescribed fire, there's a lot to that practice in terms of the technical aspects of it, and there's a lot to learn. These landowners in this area have a lot of experience utilizing that practice, but in other areas of the state, maybe they don't. So we try to gather some of the experience and successes of groups such as the Lusk Canyon Rangeland Alliance in this area and transfer that knowledge over to other groups in other areas of the state that are just getting started.
So whether it's using fire or in an area that maybe that's not the right tool, but maybe mechanical ways are versus chemical ways, it's really important to have a local field staff in place that understands the landscape, the environment, and most importantly, the landowners. Talk about the importance of that local staff.
Right. Having that local person, that local contact that farmers and ranchers know not only through their position at NRCS, but also know as a member of their community. That helps to build trust and camaraderie among the landowners and the NRCS person, technical person that's working with them. And so we feel that that's a really important aspect of what we do.
You know, our crews travel all over the country and has had the opportunity to tell the stories of conservation and partnerships with NRCS, and we've seen that local field staff in action. Thank you for all you do here to help Nebraska landowners in their conservation efforts. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's easy to get started on conservation planning and practices. Just call your local NRCS office or visit the website nrcs.usda.gov to learn about the technical and financial assistance that NRCS can provide. Still to come, we'll show you an operation in Iowa that is leaving the land in better shape for future generations. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Stressors that trigger bovine respiratory disease are all around. So when you spot BRD in your herd, turn to Suprevo, the fast that lasts. Suprevo is rapidly absorbed in as little as 45 minutes and lasts up to 28 days. Because in the race against BRD, you need to win. Ready, set, Suprevo. In case of human injection, seek immediate medical advice for use in beef and non-lactating dairy cattle only. For prescribing information, talk to your veterinarian or visit zooprevo.com.
It's time to enter the NCBA's 10th annual National Anthem Singing Contest. Open to NCBA, ANCW, or Beef Board members and their families, the winner will sing the Star-Spangled Banner at the 2023 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show in New Orleans next February. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and the winner will get cool prizes, including round-trip airfare, hotel, and registration for the convention. It's all sponsored by Norbrook. The entry deadline is October 15th. Details, rules, and entry forms at convention.ncba.org.
Welcome back. We've heard from Barb Cooksley and Jeff Nichols about the importance of conservation and sustainability. And the Environmental Stewardship Award program highlights farmers and ranchers that excel in these efforts. Let's head to Iowa for an in-depth look at the 2021 ESAP Region 3 winner, Robbins Land and Cattle.
In west central Iowa, near the town of Scranton, sits Robbins Land and Cattle. Justin and Lacey Robbins started farming together soon after they married in 2003.
We are a family operation. It includes my son McKinley and my husband Justin. We raise corn and soybeans, and we also have cow-calf herd.
I grew up right across the river. My wife is from the other side of the county, and she grew up raising some cattle with her family. Bringing those two ideas together have been interesting at times, but it gives us two different views to be able to talk through and work through some things.
One of the most important resources at Robbins Land and Cattle is the grass they use to feed their purebred Angus cattle. The majority of their pastures are rotationally grazed, which helps to improve the health of the land.
So a group of cows will be in one part of the pasture for so many days, and then we rotate them into another paddock, so they'll have another section of the pasture that they get to, so that way the previous one will have time to rest, and it can regrow and rejuvenate, and while they're into the next parcel. When we give the ground time to heal and to rest, it does make a difference. It lets it just continue to hold that ground moisture and grow a little more nutrient-friendly product, and the cows do better. We'll actually be able to run more cows on a farm.
Getting water to the cattle is another important goal. The Robbins family has installed several wells around the farm to provide a reliable source of water for livestock and wildlife.
When you're rotationally grazing cattle, they have to have water. You need to be able to provide the nutrients and the minerals that they need. So we've put some different solar wells in to make things a little easier to rotate cows. Try to bring the managing down so you don't have to really work for the cows, but the cows can really just do their thing and work for you.
A good portion of Robbins Land and Cattle is located along the North Raccoon River, and the family is committed to preventing runoff into this important tributary.
When the water leaves our farm, it goes into the creeks and the tributaries and it hits the Raccoon River, and from the Raccoon River it goes downstream and ends up in the Des Moines area. Everything runs downhill, so I want clean water as it comes by my cows from upstream, so I want to make sure that the water downstream is clean when it leaves here. Our cows do not get in the river and just hang out and muddy the waters. In our pastures, we keep them fenced out of the water because we want to make sure that it's not just us that we're thinking about. You know, there's millions of people downstream that we need to help protect as well.
One way the Robbins family helps keep the soil in place is through the use of cover crops. Justin first started experimenting with them in 2013, and he now plants cover crops on at least 50% of the farm.
A cover crop is something that you just put out there to cover the ground, basically, to hold that moisture in, don't let the sun and the wind dry it out as bad. And it'll break up the hard pan, lets the water percolate through, get some good air into the soil, and it just helps build the life of the soil. In our operation, cover crops really go hand in hand with our cows. It makes for a very inexpensive feed for our cows to graze during the fall and winter, and even sometimes into the spring. Then as the cows eat that feed and then they go back out and pass it as manure into the field, it breaks down and turns to fertilizer right there as well.
Justin and Lacey do multiple conservation practices through their livestock and their grain farming, the kinds of things that work environmentally, economically and agronomically to make their farm the best it can be.
I kind of call myself a learning farm. I'm constantly learning. I have all kinds of different experiments going on at any given time, different crop production or cover crops, and we try to make everything profitable and fun and functional all at the same time. We really enjoy what we do out here.
Justin and Lacey's farm has only been called Robbins Land and Cattle for a couple of years. This new name came about as they started a new enterprise, an online store where they sell their homegrown beef. They see it as an opportunity to share their story of environmental stewardship with their customers.
In early 2020, we started an online store to sell our beef. This gives us an opportunity to tell our story and how we operate our farm. People ask us questions all the time about how we treat the animals, what they're getting fed, do we pet them, do we name them. They're fascinated by everything we have going on here. We absolutely love questions. The more we can educate, the better we are.
People that buy our steaks and get beef from us, I want them to understand that it brings joy to our hearts to know that they are eating a tasty, healthy product that was raised with care and love.
Justin and Lacey have worked hard to make sure their farm is healthy and sustainable. And every day they strive to do what's best for the land, their cattle, and the people who eat their beef.
It's something you do every day. It's not just a once a year thing. It's every day you're trying to make something better. We haven't reached the end, we never will. If you want to be the best, you have to continue to improve every day.
We need to leave this world better than how we found it. It's just the way it should be. I am proud of how far we've come. I was just telling my son McKinley, I believe I finally hit that point where I think I can own the fact that we are doing things right. And it's taken a lot of years to get where we want to be, but we truly love what we do.
To learn more about the Environmental Stewardship Award Program and see videos of all the past regional and national winners, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. Protecting and improving natural resources has always been the focus of America's foremost land stewards, farmers, and ranchers. Here to talk about this is Shelley Kelly, who's with the Nebraska Sandhills Task Force. Shelley, thanks for being here today. Tell us a little bit about the task force and the work that you do.
You bet. Thanks for having me. The Sandhills Task Force was formed in 1993 by a group of ranchers and conservation organizations that wanted to start working together to promote the Sandhills and protect the Sandhills. We've been able to do that for a long time by working with voluntary landowners to be able to help them with conservation projects and promote private, profitable ranching. We get to promote partnerships with a lot of organizations. We partner very closely with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, as well as the Game and Parks and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and many other nonprofit organizations.
So how do these partnerships really help the landowners protect the resources that are in their care?
The partnerships are really good because everybody's really good at one aspect of natural resource protection or enhancement. The NRCS does a great job with everything that they bring to the table with technical expertise as well as cost share. The Sandhills Task Force comes more from the landowner perspective to try to help negotiate projects that work good for the ranch as well as the landscape. And the other organizations all have different pieces that fit in. So we have a more comprehensive, holistic plan that comes together with partnership.
And all of this sort of with the ultimate goal of keeping this beautiful, vast landscape intact for cattle and for wildlife. Why is it so important to protect these grasslands?
We need to keep this grassland intact. We want to keep the natural landscape here. We want to keep the wildlife populations, and we want to keep the communities thriving. The cattle are our tool to be able to do that, and so we pair ranching with conservation methods, and thank goodness they go together. So everybody gets to come together to help the ranchers improve their land, and then we get to work cooperatively with the federal land to be able to help across their boundaries.
In fact, we've got a special episode of Cattlemen and Cattlemen coming up where we'll talk more about this, protecting the grasslands and the species that threaten them. Tell us what we'll learn.
Woody encroachment is plaguing our natural landscape. We're losing our grasslands to woody encroachment every single day. And the landowners are battling to try to reclaim the grasslands, and the conservation organizations are working very hard to bring it together. The Working Lands for Wildlife initiative is trying to bring together landowners and different organizations in collaboration to tackle this effort. We want to keep our grasslands. They are necessary.
Yeah, well, we look forward to hearing more about that on the episode that's coming up. Thanks so much for your time here today.
Yes, thank you.
As Shelley just mentioned, we've got a special episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen coming up that takes a closer look at Working Lands for Wildlife and how their efforts can have a positive impact both on the land and wildlife habitat. So be sure to tune in on October 18th for more information and insights from Shelley and others. We've got more Cattlemen to Cattlemen right after this, so stay with us.
In the world of cattle vaccines, when you see fewer reactions, you'll notice healthier cattle and higher profits too. Because sometimes good protection is about what you don't see. Protect your productivity with cattle vaccines from Merck Animal Health. Proven to cause fewer reactions. You'll like what you see. Our trusted portfolio is just one more way Merck Animal Health works for you. Talk to your veterinarian and visit cattlefriendlyvaccines.com to learn more.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hi, I'm Dr. Julia Herman with the National Beef Quality Assurance Team, and I'm here to talk to you about building a biosecurity plan. When we talk about biosecurity, we are emphasizing keeping diseases off the operation, and this can be done in a number of ways. Cattle producers are already taking steps to keep their cattle healthy, and having a written biosecurity plan is an important part to both healthy cattle and a successful operation. BQA has developed some useful resources to help cattle producers walk through current biosecurity practices on their farm and provide steps for continuous improvement. The customizable template enables producers to fill out with a trusted resource such as their veterinarian. Our BQA Advanced Education module focuses on the principles of biosecurity and walks through the plan. These are great tools to prepare your operation for a disease outbreak and improve the success of your farm in the long term. Check out these resources on bqa.org.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Cattlemen and women are dedicated to managing their land and cattle in a sustainable way. They want to leave a legacy for future generations. For more than 30 years, the Environmental Stewardship Award has worked to honor these caretakers of the land and to share their stories. To find out more and to learn how you can nominate a farm or ranch for the Environmental Stewardship Award, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. If you're looking for the best in cattle industry news, information, and education, then don't miss NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Each week we cover important topics such as herd health and cattle handling, plus updates with congressional and industry leaders about today's top policy issues, and stories shot on location at cattle farms and ranches around the country. Don't miss NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen on RFD TV and on YouTube. You have an upcoming production sale to advertise? Then contact the Cattlemen to Cattlemen marketing team or your breed association to learn more.
If you're in the cattle business, you need to be in New Orleans from February 1st through the 3rd. Those are the dates for the annual Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. We asked NCBA's president-elect to share his thoughts on convention and why it's important for cattle producers to attend.
You know, I'm asked lots of times, why did I get involved in NCBA and why did I spend the time to go to the conventions? Well, if you're in the cattle business and you want to make a difference, you got to start by attending the functions. And the biggest function of them all is the convention. So it's at this point that you can really get into the nuts and bolts and find out how you can improve your operation and then help improve the issues that are impacting your organization. Don't sit on the sidelines. Go take it all in and find out that you can make a difference.
There'll be some can't-miss speakers and entertainment as part of the 2023 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, and your convention registration includes admission to all of those great events. Find out all the details on how to register at convention.ncba.org. We're wrapping up this week's show with legacy photos submitted by our viewers of daily life on the farm or ranch. Let's take a look. We'd like to feature your photos on Cattlemen to Cattlemen. You can submit them to us a couple of ways. Message them to us on the Cattlemen to Cattlemen Facebook page or email them to c2c@beef.org. Send them our way so we can use them on a future episode. That wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks for spending your time with us. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.